Hello, wonderful guys. Hope you are good today. It's another stand for the learning, and I'll be taking science, year 9 to be precise. And don't forget where we stopped the last time. We talked about friction effect. So I'll be continuing from where I stopped the last time. All right. Remember, the friction is what? Is a force that opposes the relative motion of two opposite bodies in contact with each other. We talk about what? Talk about the causes of friction, which is when two rough surfaces are rubbed together, and that's what causes friction. And we also talk about the last time, we talk about, I could remember, we discussed the laws of friction, which are 4, and I hope you have studied them very well. All right, today quickly we'll be going to advantages and disadvantages of friction. Remember that one of the quotes from Albert Einstein in 1879 is that there is no good side of a thing that does not have the negative side. Yes, everything that has good side always have the bad side. That's correct. So we have the advantages of friction and disadvantages of friction. In other words, the merits or the demerits. All right, let me quickly run through the advantages of frictional force. Why do we need friction? Why do we apply friction? Why is friction used in what we do day in, day out? Now let's try to know some of the reasons why frictional force is important to our daily living. All right. Advantages of frictional force. That's what we are continuing today. Advantages of frictional force. Now, some advantages of frictional force include the following. The first one, frictional force or friction enables us to run. It enables us to run. Yeah, that's correct. It enables us to run. Let me just put it straight. To enable us to what? Run, walk, and drive. Yes, frictional force enables us to run. With the effect of friction, we can run and stop, we can walk, and we can drive our car. And when we drive our car, it helps us to stop the car by the application of the brake. The brake, when the brake is applied, the car automatically stops. That is the what? One of the advantages of frictional force. All right, I will just give you 2 or 3 advantages, then we move to the disadvantages. All right, it helps us to what? It helps us to grind pepper. Yeah, that's correct. With the effect of friction, we can grind pepper. It is friction that helps us to move forward our hand and move it back. When we are grind the pepper, it helps us to grind pepper. Another advantage of friction, it helps us to sharpen knives. It helps us to sharpen knives. That's correct. It helps us to sharpen knives. etc. That is, there are other advantages, but let me stop here. Now let me run through the advantages again. It enables us to run, walk, and drive. It helps us to grind pepper. 3, it helps us to sharpen knives. Amidst other things, it helps us to do. All right, let's quickly run through the disadvantages of frictional force. Don't forget, I told you that disadvantages simply means demerits. The disadvantages of frictional force. Disadvantages of frictional force include the following. All right, one of the disadvantages is that it causes wear and tear. It causes wear and tear. All right. Now, when I say it causes wear and tear, what does this mean? Let me quickly explain this term. Now, this simply means frictional force. One of the reasons why people don't like the application of frictional force is that it causes wear and tear. It causes wear and tear. This simply means that, for instance, let's take a look at a car. When you're driving a car, remember that sometimes the tire bursts. That's correct, isn't it? The tire bursts and you hear the sound pop. What makes the tire burst or tear is because of the application of friction. When the brake is applied suddenly and there is power on the tire, it can make the tire tear. So that is the meaning of frictional force causing wear and tear. It can make the particle or the surface tear, and it can make it wear. Wear means it will no longer be useful for the owner. It will no longer be useful for the owner. So the perfect example we can put in place here is the tire of the car. When the tire bursts or tears suddenly, that is one of the disadvantages of friction. Now, another disadvantage is that it It causes power loss. It causes power loss. Now, it causes power loss. What does this mean? This means that sometimes when somebody wants to apply brake to a driving car, the brake may not work. It might not work because the tire and the clutches that hold the tire, that make the effect of the brake to come in place, may not be holding the tire. So to that, the brake may be lost. That is why some people run into accident, because the power is being lost. The power being lost there means the brake is no longer functioning at that point in time. That is an example of power loss. Did you get it? Alright. Another disadvantage of friction is that it causes reduction in speed or motion. Or let me say, it reduces speed or motion. It reduces speed or motion. Now, what does this mean? Yeah, one of the reasons why frictional force is not too good is because it reduces the speed of a car, a body, or an object. For example, now, if I'm running and something suddenly stumbles on my way, or I stumbled on something like a stick, a stone, or any other material, friction will be stopped without you wanting it to stop. That's the meaning. That is why when some people are running, they easily fall, or they suddenly fall without their due awareness. That is the meaning of it reduces speed or motion. So one of the disadvantages of frictional force is that it reduces speed or motion. Alright, now let's go to the last one that I'll be stopping for today, is that it causes heating when two surfaces in contact meet. It causes heating or melting. It causes heating when the two surfaces suddenly collide or meet. Now, what does this mean? It causes heating when the two surfaces suddenly collide or meet. Now, this is a very good example. When you look at this explanation, I was still going to use a moving car. When a car is in motion or is in motion, you will see that sometimes when the brake is lost and there is a force from the brake to the steering, and the steering is trying to maintain its stand and it could not maintain that stand, it will eventually hit something. And when it hits something, there will be outburst of fire or heating. That means the engine, that is the bonnet where the engine is located, will start heating. You will see flame coming up. So that is one of the disadvantages of frictional force. Alright, let me go through the lesson again for some reasons. We talk about advantages of frictional force. We say friction enables us to run, walk, and drive. Now, it enables us to run, walk, and drive. We say it helps us to grind pepper. Of course, when talking about grinding pepper, I'm talking about the mechanical method. Mechanical method. I'm not talking about using the blender, not the blender. When you're using the blender, you're not using your mechanical power. Mechanical power simply means using your hand to do something. That's what they call mechanical power. Do you understand? So using mechanical power, grinding the pepper with the grinding stone is one of the merits of friction that we use friction for. Alright, I talk about it helps us to sharpen knives. You know, you have seen all these mala, known as aboki. Malam, they used to carry a particular engine to and fro in the area, isn't it? Your dad give them your knife, your cutlasses, your oars, and sometimes chisel. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, chisel. And they put it to the machine and they start sharpening it. The force of sharpening that knife or the cutlass or any other material is the application of friction, because the person is actually using force to sharpen those materials. Did you get it? Alright. Now we now talk about the disadvantages of frictional force. It causes wear and tear. I've explained about using the tire. When the tire tears suddenly on motion or it boxes, that's the meaning of wear and tear. It causes power loss. When the brake is no longer in function, activity, or working, it reduces speed and motion. It causes heating when the two surfaces suddenly collide or meet. Alright, at this point, we have come to the end of the lesson. I will leave it with what with an assignment to do. I will always tell you work to do. All right. Now, work to do at home. The first one is this. Now, I still want you to define friction again. Define friction again. Define friction. Even though you have been given in the last class, define it again for you to master what? The definition. The second one. Now, I want you to reconfigure. I want you to remember for recapitulation processes. This question. I want you to tell me what? The causes. Now, state the causes of friction. State the cause or idea of friction. That means what causes friction? State it again. State the cause. State cause or idea of friction. Now we can put the cause. State the cause or idea of friction. And the last assignment. Now outline to each. Outline to each of the advantages. Now I'm going to test your understanding by changing the word advantage to the outline to each of the merit and the merit of frictional force. Alright, I've just told you the meaning of merit, and merit is another word for advantage, while demerit is another word for disadvantage. Alright, at this point, we have come to the end of the lesson. Thank you for staying with me. Please obey the directives from the federal government. If you are not on essential services, wash your hands regularly and remember to stay at home. I am your teacher, Adedayo. Thank you.